Welcome to Aston Means Business. I'm Steve Dyson, the journalist presenting this regular podcast for Aston Business School. It's subtitled SMEs Building Resilience to COVID-19 Challenges. We're interviewing small business leaders who are taking part or who've recently taken part in Aston Centre for Growth's programmes. They're sharing their experiences and explaining how they're developing their operations during these uncertain economic times. We're also talking to some of Aston Business School's top academics, getting their valuable insight, analysis and advice for SMEs. In today's episode, I'm going to be talking to Amy Foster. She's the founder and owner of Nomad HR and Recruitment based in Atherstone, Warwickshire. Nomad is a business, of course, and Amy has faced her own challenges to keep this going during the pandemic. But what I think listeners will find outstanding is how Amy has found the time to start helping young, unemployed people to find jobs in these difficult times. Here listening to my interview is Nathalie Ormrod. She's a lecturer in marketing and director of the BSc marketing programme at Aston Business School. She's also director at Aston of PRIME, the United Nations Principles of Responsible Management Education initiative. Hello to you, Nathalie.
Hello, and thank you very much for having me on this podcast, Steve. I'm delighted to take part today, especially to talk about Amy's initiative.
Thanks for agreeing to take part, Nathalie. We'll have a good chat once we've heard my interview with Amy Foster of Nomad. Hello to you, Amy.
Hi, Steve.
Amy, let's start by finding out a bit more about you. What's your background before Nomad, and what led you to launch your own business?
So in a previous life, I was a HR manager. I worked for a global lean consultancy. Then I had my daughter, and just going back to work wasn't the same. But I started out my career. I've got a degree in sport, and I was a youth worker. And I suppose deep down, I am still a youth worker at heart.
And so what caused you to think of launching your own business then?
When I went back to work, and I absolutely loved my job, I couldn't wait to go back to work. It just wasn't the same. So people were telling me to do it for myself, and I thought, no, I need to find a part-time job and try and have a work-life balance like that. But every job I was going for was a step backwards, and people were saying, you'll find this boring. No, I won't. I just want to come to work. And I did. 2 weeks before my notice period was up, I set up Nomad, and here we are 5 years later.
Great stuff. Now, exactly what does Nomad do, and what's its size in terms of staff, turnover and client base?
So Nomad HR and Recruitment does exactly what it says on the tin. We do HR and recruitment. Size of business, it's me. I'm the founder. I'm it, but I work with a group of consultants and associates to be able to deliver the work that we need to do. And turnover, it's over 100,000 this year, and I'm looking to have a 50% increase in turnover this financial year compared to last.
Where do you specialise? Which sectors?
Engineering and manufacturing mainly. I've got a client base of about 12 companies that dip in and dip out when needed. But yeah, most of them are engineering and manufacturing.
It sounds like a healthy, growing business. What impact did COVID-19 have on your operations?
Oh, that was a year ago now, wasn't it? My husband works for the NHS, and he was redeployed into ITU. So I was at home, homeschooling our 6-year-old, and I was still working. I still got clients who were recruiting. My largest client is in specialist workwear and PPE. So they obviously had lots of jobs to still fill, and engineering and manufacturers were still working. Factories were still open. So it was a busy time last year, but you could see through the news the impact it was having on young people. They were the ones that were losing their jobs mainly, those going on to furlough or just being made redundant. And I just thought that I could do something different. When I got back to the office, when I had time on my hands, when the time was my own, I was going to do things differently.
And what do you mean by doing things differently? What did you do?
I set up Nomad as a social enterprise. I wanted to be able to help young people back into work. It's my two passions, youth work and recruitment. So I've set aside time and money to be able to help young people back into work.
So hold on a minute, you're already running your own business. Then with COVID, you've got to maintain that balance for a youngster at home, plus keep things going at work. And yet amidst all that chaos, you decided to turn part of your business towards helping young people. Tell us more about that, Amy. Exactly how are you going about helping young people, and what effect has that had?
So I'll start with how I did it. So when we were able to go back to work and my daughter went to school as a key worker child, I had 5 hours a day. That was huge. I had 5 whole hours to myself. And I sat down, and anything that wasn't my job, I no longer do. So I have somebody for finance, VA, copywriter, designer. I have HR consultants that help me with HR projects. I have PR person, a communications person. I only do my job. That gives you loads more time in a day. I have referrals through the job centre for young people who want to find work. So these are motivated young people, and theirs is called a mentoring circle. I'm one of their mentors, and it's all done on the phone now. You used to be able to see them face to face, and it's whatever they need. Each one's slightly different on what they need to be able to help find a job. So it could be from starting at the CV through to interview skills, or just as both job hunting together and seeing what's out there and is suitable for them.
And what kind of results have you had so far?
So I've got 6 young people into work. One of those young people has even gone from being homeless through to starting work. So that's a huge, everything from finding an address, ID to be able to do it, CV. He's one of my greatest success stories. And I've got another 2 young people that are due to start next month, hopefully.
That's an amazing story in terms of finding someone a job who was previously without a home. I mean, what kind of jobs are you finding these young people?
Well, because we live in the heart of the Midlands, a lot of the work is logistics, but it depends on what the young person wants to do. So whatever their background is, there are jobs out there. Also, a lot have realised that perhaps what career plans they had are put on pause for the moment, and employers will understand that, and they're going to take a job through COVID and then restart their career afterwards.
Just one thing I want to pick up with you. You talked about how you managed to, with the time you had available, you managed to get various other functions done by other people. So you were subcontracting things out of your main business to provide some time to focus on your social enterprise. How did you manage to do that? Where did you pick those ideas up and that discipline up?
Aston University on the course. it was everything. The bits that I'm good at is the people side of things, the recruitment, and the ideas. I can't be doing all that while I'm sitting with a to-do list, which is copywriting, because that's not my forte. And the bit that I'm proud of is that I'm keeping other small businesses alive as well. I think that's how the world works, how the world goes round.
You know what, Amy? I can really hear that you're enjoying the way that your company is developing, and it seems to have given you such a positive focus in what's otherwise quite a miserable pandemic. Are you going to continue this in the future?
Absolutely. I'm hoping this is a sustainable business model.
So what's your long-term vision and targets then that you're thinking of?
Finding other ways for referrals for young people, because just having it through the job centre is only one way that we can help people. There must be other avenues, and being able to structure it a little bit better. I have been extremely, extremely busy with recruitment since last August. I've placed 36 people. That's double in just 6 months. That's double what the number that I recruited in the previous year. So it has been a very busy time, but I've found time to do that because of the different structure I have.
And how will you make sure that works for your business in terms of what kind of ratio will you spend on the social enterprise side? And will you need to formally launch as a social enterprise?
Yes, I'd like to formally launch it, and I'm trying to stick to the 80-20 ratio so that 1 day a week is social enterprise, but that could be that it's done as a week rather than one structured day a week.
You talk about these young people who you're helping. When you find them and when you help them and when you engage with them and with the 6 that you've already found a job, for instance, what kind of relationship do you have with them? I mean, they must become so close to you, someone who's helped them out of that position they were in.
Yes, I enjoy the time with them, but I realise I'm there for part of their journey, and off they go. They are welcome to come back if they need to, if they wanted to, if their circumstances changed. But yeah, I do still keep in touch with them. one young person has returned to me. He lost his job. He was a lifeguard, and he lost his job during the pandemic, as obviously pools were closed. So he's hopefully one of the young people that's due to start next month.
And the businesses themselves that you go to try to get these young people into work, how do they respond to you when you explain that they're either jobless or they're in positions like homelessness? What kind of response have you had from the business community?
Well, the homeless story didn't need to be told. He came across really, really well, and it was networking with people that what jobs are available, where can you go, what's on the doorstep, and just being able to find the right people. Probably in half of the cases, the young people have found their own job. Perhaps I've just given them interview techniques, practiced with them, or helped them write a CV that is tailored towards that job. Everyone's so different. I can't say that the same thing applies each time.
Amy Foster, the founder and owner of Nomad HR and Recruitment, many thanks for joining us, and I wish you the very best as you develop your business's social enterprise side.
Oh, thank you so much for your time today, Steve. It's been lovely to speak to you.
Hopefully still with me is Nathalie Ormrod, the Senior Lecturer in Marketing at Aston Business School and Director of Aston's Prime. Nathalie, before we discuss Amy's story, can you tell me more about Prime, the United Nations Principles of Responsible Management Education Initiative, and tell me how Aston's involved?
Well, Prime is a very, very important initiative, which is basically under the umbrella of the United Nations. It is an offshoot from the Global Compact, which is, once again, a very large initiative which basically encourages companies across the world to engage into sustainability activities. And the UK, as many other countries in the world, has committed to the Agenda 2030. And alongside companies and businesses, obviously universities, business schools need also to embark on that journey. We started in 2008 with Prime. And in the UK, we are fortunate enough to say that most of our universities are now part and active members of the Prime initiative, which means that we ensure that sustainability, a curriculum which basically promotes sustainability, CSR, ethics, responsible business is embedded in our curriculum.
Yes, as you say, it's more than just the environment, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when people think about sustainability, they tend to associate it or relate it solely to environment. No, with sustainability, we're actually looking at the impact of business and the impact of our curriculum in terms of preparing the managers of tomorrow, in terms of how they will manage our employees, how they will look after the welfare of their customers, how they will engage with their communities and support their communities, how transparent, for instance, their relationships with their suppliers will be as well. And obviously, the environment is part of this as well.
That's a great initiative, and it's so important to have it on the agenda for students at Aston Business School. And it's obviously something that had a real meaning for Amy Foster, wasn't it?
Yes, and I am actually very, very impressed with Amy Foster's business because I think it is inspirational. It is definitely, doing the right thing. It's also courageous because Amy is a working mom, and she decided to basically, revisit her work-life balance, and still, being a very, very busy business person, decided to allocate one day of her schedule towards helping others. Part of the Global Compact initiative and the Agenda 2030 is basically looking at sustainability and sustainable development goals. And every company can have a look at those. I mean, they are readily published online under the Global Compact, United Nations. And there are 17 SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, that many companies, again, across the UK and across the world, have decided to commit to. And if we're looking at Amy and her initiatives as local level, she's already obviously, supporting SDG quality education, SDG reduced inequalities, SDG 3 good health and well-being, SDG 1 no poverty, by basically helping those young people get back on tracks and get a better chance at life and get into employment. SDG Sustainable Development Goals, and basically, once again, they have been developed as part of the United Nations commitment to sustainability, diversity, inclusivity, and they are part of the Agenda 2030, which countries and companies across the world have committed to.
In Amy's case, of course, it was youth unemployment that she focused on. And that's a great issue, isn't it? Especially in the wake of COVID-19, when so many young people feel they're a generation who have missed out. It's had quite a draining impact on youth, hasn't it?
Yes, and I think we must not ignore this at all. I think that the big worry of our generation of students at the moment is that they are worried that employers will not look at their qualification in the same way, that their degree will be meaningless, which is absolutely the opposite. And I really want to reassure those students out there, because they need to know that employers, on the contrary, have been going through the crisis. It's a pandemic, it's a challenge, very difficult circumstances for all of us. And those students still have found the resilience and the courage to keep on going, to keep on studying. And that's certainly, they have developed soft skills here of courage, of determination, of motivation that employers will look at and will consider. Certainly at Aston University, we have continued to provide them with the same learning tools, the same dedication, with the same support as ever, to make sure that their journey continued in the best way. Absolutely.
And Amy's message, of course, is basically for youths to know that it's okay to ask for help to get further on in their careers or to get a job again. She's very keen on making sure that the youth feel they've got that access, isn't she?
Yes, and I think once again it is the right thing to do, and this is what companies, organization initiatives, whatever form your organization take, need to bear in mind. It's about doing the right thing, and those those youngsters, those students, those youth out there need our support. They need our community support, and that includes the business community. And I think that one of the story that Amy is referring to is really heartwarming indeed. Getting homeless, youth off the street and giving them a new purpose in life and a new future. We know that, employment and good employment is related to health and well-being, and it's giving them a chance for their future, which is our future too. We must not forget that. Supporting basically our youth is also supporting our future.
Yeah, she must have really built up some trust with these youths.
Trust is absolutely essential. Trust is at the core of any relationships, and that includes business relationships. And I think that, getting those youth back on tracks is absolutely essential. They need our support. And as you said earlier, Steve, asking for help is a strength. It is certainly not a weakness. It's making sure that basically you can still walk on. You can still basically achieve what you set to achieve. And those current circumstances are dreadfully difficult for many different reasons.
Like you, Natalie, I was so impressed by not only the way that Amy wanted to do this, but also how she's managed to build it up as part of her business structure and almost set herself goals that she doesn't just have profits, but she also has a different form of reward.
Yes, I think that gratification is something that maybe we don't always think about. You see, the reward is not only financial at all. The reward is what you feel within yourself as well, feeling good about what you've achieved and feeling good helping others. And I think that's a huge, huge part of business as well. That sense of reward, internal human reward, gratification. And this is why a lot of companies now are actually, helping their employees on occasion set a day aside, whether it's a week, whether it's per week, whether it's per month. And that is very important because that's that warm feeling again. And certainly, through research, we know that, for instance, funding charity is not enough. It's sharing good practice, sharing expertise, sharing knowledge, and basically sharing education. That is what matters to make people, look up again, become independent, autonomous, and manage to get back on tracks and help others even further.
I like the way that Amy's operations have managed to make this so much part of her business life, not only in terms of her own ratio. She has this 80-20 idea, so that 1 day in 5, in a flexible way, will be spent on her social enterprise, but also the way that she's involving her other suppliers and contractors, because they are then doing things which she doesn't have to do herself. So she's kind of getting them to help her to find the time to structure this 80-20% ratio. It's got quite a widening effect, hasn't it?
It is basically, the value of our business that we are talking about here. It is the essence of our business, and it cannot be limited solely to what Amy is doing. It has to basically, pervade across all those different relationships. That's very important. So basically, people are on board or they're not on board. And I think that we can see this as well in business right now, and we can see it as well as a demand from customers. You cannot be good in one area. It's got to be a build-up of different values that gradually are going to permeate throughout the entire organization. And I think that basically it's part of a transparency, it's part of a journey that you decide, to go on with your business as well. You've got to be credible. People have got to trust you.
One last question, Nathalie. If business leaders listening want to be more sustainable or want to add something socially meaningful to their operations, what are your top tips for how they can get started?
Well, to be honest with you, checking the Global Compact website, entering UN Global Compact, and there you will find a lot of material on how basically you can start your own journey towards achieving those sustainable development goals. You can see them, they're online as well. The Global Compact website also has, wonderful resources so that you can see where you can make a difference, where you can change your management. It's not about, going and trying to accomplish over 17 goals. They are all related one way or another. Many companies will, for instance, decide to focus on 3 or 4 of them. And that's already a start. And that is very, very important to embark onto this journey. And bearing in mind as well that we, business schools in the UK, are preparing your graduates, your future employees for those businesses. We are preparing them with that knowledge and that dedication, because at the end of the day, this is your future, but it is mostly it is their future, and that is important to them as much as it is to you.
Nathalie Ormrod, a senior lecturer in marketing at Aston Business School and the director at Aston of Prime, the United Nations Principles of Responsible Management Education initiative. Many thanks for joining us on the podcast today.
Thank you so much for having me today. And once again, what an inspirational journey Amy Foster has shared with us today.
Absolutely. Thanks also to Amy Foster, the founder and owner of Nomad HR and Recruitment, for sharing her story. We'll be back soon with another case study on how SMEs are responding to the pandemic, with more crucial analysis and advice from academics and experts here at Aston. Aston means business. SMEs building resilience to COVID-19 challenges. Thanks for listening.